So welcome and thank you for joining everyone. Hi, I'm Zainab Minarji and I'm the Channel and Field Marketing Manager at Critical Start. Thank you so much for joining our webinar today. Before we get started, I'm going to quickly review a few housekeeping items. This session is being recorded and you will receive the recording after the presentation concludes. We will be launching polls throughout the presentation and you will only need to click your answer one time to submit. Everyone is automatically muted. If you would like to ask your question live, please click raise hand and we will bring you up on stage. Or feel free to engage with our speakers and each other by using the chat function or place a question in the Q&A section as well. Now let's get to the good stuff. I'm going to hand it over to our speakers today. We've got Stephen Rosenthal from Critical Start and Seth Williams from Sumo Logic. Stephen?
Thanks, Zainab. Appreciate it. Welcome, everybody. Hopefully everyone's having a great day today. Looking forward to spending a little bit of time with you and talking about the SIEM market. So as Zainab said, I'm Stephen Rosenthal. I'm the Director of Product Management here at Critical Start. I look over all of our SIEM product offerings, as well as what we call Managed XDR and our relationship with Sumo Logic. I am lucky to have a partner in my crime, Seth Williams, a field CTO from Sumo Logic. Seth, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Thanks, Stephen. Seth Williams from Sumo Logic. I'm the field CTO for our partners. Very, very happy to be here today to talk to Stephen. Stephen and I have developed a close working relationship, excuse me, over the last couple of years, and just really excited to talk to everyone today about how we can really improve customer experience with their cybersecurity solutions. So thanks for having me, Stephen.
Great, Seth. Appreciate it. All right, so why don't we dive right into it? So let's take a look at the agenda for today. So we'll cover, welcome to the security labyrinth. That's what the theme of the webinar is going to be today. Why a customer-centric approach is the only way to navigate the cybersecurity landscape. You really need somebody to focus on you, the customer, and make sure that you're giving and provided that white glove service. And we'll walk through that. How do you optimize your security outcomes? Security is only good as the outcomes that you get. So we're going to walk through that. And how do we enhance your security posture based on those security outcomes? So how do we create that entire security centric view of everything so you get the best coverage? And the best coverage obviously is increasing the visibility and overcoming any blind spots. The biggest threat is going to be a blind spot. That threat actor is going to look for that blind spot and get into that blind spot. So how do we prevent those blind spots from happening and closing them up? Give a couple of real world examples, and I'll go slightly into what our platform looks like and how we interact with Sumo Logic's platform and how the two come together and give a better together story around that. And then we'll get into any Q&A that you have and any key takeaways. So with that, we'll just go ahead and dive right into it with a first poll question. Zainab will bring up the poll. What is one of your favorite TV shows or movies that featured a maze? We're keeping it on all the labyrinth theme. So obviously this is somewhat cybersecurity related. Did you like the Labyrinth, the Maze Runner, Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire? Was it a Westworld or something other that we're not even listing here? I know I have my favorite. I hear Seth has his favorite. We won't announce those yet. Maybe at the end we can come back to it, but hopefully everyone's been able to take part in the poll and just a little fun thing to get things kicked off. All right, so as I said, it's a labyrinth out there. What you don't know, you don't know. So how can we help you with that? And what can we walk through today to take a look at that? And we'll look at three things up first. How do I avoid suboptimal security outcomes due to limited staffing? There's a challenge out there, and I'm sure Seth has seen the same thing, in that companies don't have the level of staff that they need to provide the coverage that's needed to provide that security outcomes that they're looking for. So how do you overcome that skill and technical gap and make sure that you're covered 24/7 by 365? Again, with that white glove expertise. We're going to stress that white glove expertise throughout this webinar today. The other question is, how do I enhance my security posture and improve efficiencies? You want to consolidate data and simplify all the processes out there. Make sure it comes into this unified platform so you have that single pane of glass to be able to look at. What we do is provide that what I'll call more the dual pane of glass. The single pane comes in is that, and I'll show you that you can actually single sign on from the Critical Start platform into the Sumo Logic platform. So you get the best of both worlds there, and to be able to see that full coverage that you're getting across all the platforms. And then make sure, how do we protect your environment continuously? Again, increase visibility to identify and mitigate threats effectively. Make sure it's being watched 24/7 by 365. All right, so this is kind of shows what you want to focus on in terms of SIEM coverage. So starting from the left, obviously where it says start, you have a couple of different options that the arrows take you. If you already have a SIEM, but you need to have that managed detection and response management, we can take you on the route of what we call managed SIEM or SIEM solutions, SIEM security solutions, which is you bring that license. So Seth can talk about, he'll talk about in a second what Sumo brings in terms of licensing. And you bring that license to a company like Critical Start, and we provide the management of that SIEM environment. But there's a lot of companies out there that either they're looking to buy a SIEM, they don't have a SIEM. So what do you do if you don't have a SIEM? Well, there's products out there that utilize Sumo Logic, for example, as a backend like we do, and have a product called Managed XDR. So if you don't have a SIEM, but you need security beyond that endpoint, you have your endpoints covered by other platforms, where do you store those logs? I got to store those logs somewhere. So Managed XDR becomes that log collection platform, and it gives those capabilities of threat detection, and it brings all of those alerts into that single platform. And Seth, I don't know if you want to jump in here, that'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. So this diagram is really meant to show that no matter where one might be on the journey, whether they have an existing solution, they've managed it themselves, they've run into some of those skill set shortages that we've all seen in the market, or whether they're new to security in their platform, in their organization, there are different options that one can choose. And those options can be supported by Critical Start. So if you're coming off of something different or you're going into it new, and you don't want to manage, it just really depends upon the level of touch that you want to have with your environment. There are options available. Both options are absolutely fine either way, but there are plenty of ways in which to gain the same type of coverage, the same type of visibility, regardless of where you start. So that's what this is really trying to depict, is that there's no reason for one to be concerned over where they are today. Let's get to where we want to be in the future. So
yeah, appreciate that, Seth. Absolutely. I think that's critical. Again, I just to stress it one more time, the start position on the left, we can take either direction, and the outcome, which is your full security and business potential, is really you want to be. So focus on the outcomes and how you get there, but the outcome is the most important part I want to stress on this. Appreciate that, Seth.
Yeah.
All right, so how do you get the full value from your SIEM ecosystem? What we like to say is you want to focus on these 6 areas and make sure these 6 areas are very strong in the solution that you go with. So you want to make sure that you can, the migration and implementation, that white glove service, if you're coming from a different solution, as Seth just talked about, is there a white glove service that can help you migrate to another service, or you don't have a service and help you get up and running on that service? And both Critical Start and Sumo Logic have professional services organizations that can help you do this. That goes along with configuration. A SIEM solution is only as good as it's configured and kept up to date. What you see a lot, and what I see a lot, and I'm sure Seth can speak to this also, is SIEM has become very much what I would call a set it and forget it environment. Companies will set up their SIEM, set it up the way they need it today on, whatever in 2024, and then they don't touch it for months, and it becomes very stale. And the problem with that is now it becomes stale and threat actors find that open hole to get into, and you don't have that coverage. So that leads into content, making sure that you have the right content to cover your log sources that are being ingested into your SIEM. Content is extremely, extremely important. And we'll walk through in a second on how we determine the primary, secondary, and tertiary log sources on that content, again, to make sure you have that full coverage. Operational monitoring. This is where the management piece comes in. That set it and forget it. Let a company white glove service like Critical Start look and make sure that system is always up and running. Make sure everything, the log sources are coming in. We'll talk about what happens if a log source goes down. What do we do about that? Again, if we're not getting the content, there's nothing that anybody can do to prevent that threat actor. Tech management. I think this is something that Seth can stress on also. How do we do tech management and keep that up to date? Seth, I think you might have had something to jump in here with the tech management.
Yeah, absolutely. So with everything on this slide, being centered around the customer experience is what I want folks to really focus on. All of this takes place hand in hand with Critical Start and Sumo Logic. From migrating off of an existing solution or starting from scratch, all the way through configuration, content, operational monitoring, and tech management. And tech management is one that I'm very passionate about, simply because in my background, I've built and maintained systems like SIEM solutions, and it takes a lot of time. Fortunately, with Sumo Logic, that tech management burden is dramatically decreased. And when I say dramatically, in orders of magnitude, dramatically decreased. But even collector upgrades can all be done through Sumo Logic's UI and can actually be executed by Critical Start. So the tech management portion, in conjunction with the expertise of the Critical Start team, is dropped dramatically. And to anyone who's been responsible for maintaining systems themselves, or having worked with other maybe service providers who must maintain a system and maybe get the bad news that this system is down for whatever reason, you won't have that with this collaboration between Sumo and Critical Start, because the tech management is drastically reduced. Additionally, the configuration, once again, hand in hand from the time that you create the initial relationship with Critical Start, they're going to be there to help and guide through the configuration of both data collection as well as content creation. So it's really a great way to better understand your environment, effectively and efficiently walk through what needs to be done. And Steven's got a great slide coming up here, what needs to be done, what needs to be collected. It's really a great comprehensive way in which to get the appropriate data where it needs to be monitored by the folks who can actually do something about it. So,
yeah, perfect. Appreciate that. All right. So again, this is all, let's get back to that labyrinth. Everything on the left-hand side, those 6, buckets that you want to do, is so you can leave those threat actors behind. You don't want them getting in. So let's get that full value from your SIEM ecosystem. Again, I know I've said it, Seth has said it multiple times, that white glove service. Make sure that SIEM environment is not a set it and forget it kind of environment. We do not want those ugly threat actors coming in here, like in that picture up there. All right, Seth, I'm going to turn it back over to you to kind of walk through the Sumo Logic ecosystem.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Stephen. So this is a nice, succinct diagram, even though there's quite a bit on the page here. Sumo Logic is a log analytics and security solution. And log analytics can pertain to 2 different realms, both observing the environment that an organization is running day to day, meaning I need to understand when things are up and down, when things are going bad, how I can get to root cause quickly. So we could provide that log analytics solution to users who bring their own license to Critical Start, have access to our very scalable solution that will allow you to query data, maintain data hot for a very, very long period of time, and gain the benefit of having a cloud SIEM, which is an advanced correlation engine that has reduced false positives in many, many hundreds of customers for Sumo Logic. We provide out-of-the-box content that can be used to show those insights and provide context to any activity that's going on within your environment. And we do so with 100% cloud native solution. So we are extremely scalable. So regardless of how much data you have coming into your environment, regardless of the many different sources that you have, Sumo Logic will scale both from an ingest and a search perspective based off of the demand. So it is a true scalable solution that was built in the cloud for customers to take advantage of, that will grow and shrink with them should they need it. We have very flexible licensing should you choose to bring your license to Critical Start, or Critical Start can offer their Managed XDR solution to you. So there's multiple ways to use and gain the benefit of the scalable security solution that Sumo Logic provides. We're also backed by machine learning and artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence, we are approaching it in a very responsible way, but we are also taking advantage of the benefits of that solution, and Sumo Logic is at the forefront of doing so, like I said, in a very responsible way. And then last but certainly not least is we're secure by design. And what we mean by that is the fact that we have invested time and money to attest our solution, the Sumo Logic solution that folks log into every single day, to be compliant with many different frameworks. This includes SOC 2 Type 2, HIPAA, PCI, as well as FedRAMP Moderate. So we are investing our resources into ensuring that we're providing our customers a solution that is secure by design. That, amongst many other things that we offer within Sumo, that you can certainly take advantage of if you were to choose Sumo Logic and Critical Start together.
Yeah, this is incredible. I mean, the platform just provides so much flexibility, as Seth said, and the way that you can bring this to Critical Start and that better together story is just, we've been working very closely over the last few years. And again, with that managed SIEM offering, as well as where you bring your own license, as well as the Managed XDR, allows you to take full advantage of the majority of everything that you see on this screen. So been a great partnership, and I'll take this opportunity and multiple opportunities. Thanks, Seth and Sumo Logic, for bringing this partnership together.
Same to you, my friend. Same to you.
So let's continue right on. So this is going to walk you through a little bit of what we've been talking about in terms of the customer experience. Critical Start's what we call the Cyber Operations Risk and Response Platform, or CORE. You'll hear myself and others from Critical Start call it the platform. So you'll hear it called a couple different ways, but when you see it within any type of articles that are written, it's referred to as CORE. And how does that integrate with Sumo Logic's scalable architecture that Seth just did a great job on the last side talking about? So how does it all work together and really get that equals that resilient, future-proof security strategy? So let me start walking you through this. Seth, interrupt at any time, and please add your thoughts. But the way that we start is what even Seth talked about the last slide, those collectors, those hosted log collectors, as well as those log the out-of-the-box collectors that Sumo Logic brings to the table.
And Stephen, I'll jump in right here.
Please,
in. So it's actually speaks to one of those three bullets that we started with, visibility. You don't know what you don't know. So in order to have a solution bring in data from hundreds, thousands of different sources, you must have the capability to technologically speak to those other systems. So we can do so in a couple of different ways. On the left-hand side, you'll see hosted log collectors as well as installed log collectors. And that means that we can meet the needs of any organization that have on-prem, cloud-only, hybrid approach, private cloud. We can bring in those data sources that have the telemetry required for us to understand the activity going on within an organization. So those are just a few examples, those logos there that you see. We can bring in data from all cloud providers. the big three, GCP, Azure, and AWS, absolutely bring that data in as a source of data for correlation. Installed log collectors, you can pull in syslog data from your local firewalls at your edge. You can pull in Windows events, Unix events, Mac events, all within a very easy to configure solution. Also helped along by the folks at Critical Start. So a comprehensive visibility methodology to get the appropriate telemetry to a SIEM solution. And the appropriate security relevant data is really what I want folks to key in on, is that we won't penalize for bringing in all of the data that may not be security relevant. You can bring in the data, analyze that data, but only the security relevant data need be correlated. So there are many different ways that Critical Start, with the help of Critical Start and Sumo Logic, that you can actually segment that data, categorize it. It's not an all or nothing solution. So gaining visibility into those many different thousands of technologies that exist is quite easy with Sumo. And once again, if you do bring your own license from Sumo Logic, we have unlimited users. So a number of different, any number of users within an organization can log in, and it's absolutely no additional cost. So with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Stephen, after that visibility of that data is collected.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So Seth just talked about, again, that all the data that's coming in, we care about the security relevant data, as Seth talked about. So you see Sumo Logic in the cloud there. We're going to connect via API, and we're going to take in 100% of the security alerts that come in through Sumo Logic. We don't segment out the low priority alerts, the medium, the highs. We take everything in, because what happens is the threat actors can hide in those low priority alerts. They'll hide there for months and nobody's looking at them, and they'll eventually get in. So we want to take in 100% of those alerts. What you see in the middle box there is the Critical Start, what I'll call the secret sauce. That's core, or the platform. We have what's called the Trusted Behavior Registry, or TBR. The Trusted Behavior Registry resolves false positives that we've been building this database over the 12 plus years that we've been in business. So we can, once it goes through that Trusted Behavior Registry, it filters out over 99% of false positives that we're aware of. So anything that makes it to our SOC is, we know that's going to be a real alert and not a false positive, but it's going to be a true positive alert. This is critical, right? Because even what was talked about at, if anybody attended the Gartner Security Conference last week, one of the big things they talked about is security analysts, what I'll call burnout. I know we've talked about a lot in the past few years of, like alert fatigue and things like that. This takes care of alert fatigue, but there's real burnout in the security analysts, and we got to be careful and make sure that we're treating these alerts and making sure we're getting rid of these false positives. So they're just not staring at alerts all day that they don't need to. Let's focus on the ones that they have to be focused on. And what happens is they get escalated to our security analysts within our SOC. Again, our SOC runs 7 by 365, 24 by 7 by 365, excuse me. We have 2 SOC locations. And then if need be, we will escalate that to the customer, or to you, the customer. A couple of ways of doing that. We do have the mobile SOC, which works on your phones, both on Android and iPhone, an application that you download from those stores on those platforms. Or we just have the conversations with you via our platform. And it's very transparent. So anything that our analyst is working on and typing within the platform and communicating with the customer can see within the platform, and the customer then can communicate back to the analyst, and they can communicate back and forth that way. Very transparent, nothing's hidden, everything is within there. I'll show you in a second kind of what that looks like. So again, that incident response, if needed, Critical Start has that, but we start with everything. None of this can work on the right-hand side unless we get everything from Sumo Logic on the left-hand side that Seth talked about.
Yeah, so I want to just jump in, Stephen, real quick,
yes,
on the right-hand side of the document. So in a past life, I did work in a SOC for the U.S. federal government. And I will say that having been there for late nights, and having been responsible for some highly critical applications and deadlines and investigations, that the security or the feeling of being taken care of would have been so nice to have had another group of individuals that I knew were fighting for me. And also having a mobile app that could tell me what the status of any given incident was at any given time would have been quite convenient as well. So the fact that Critical Start makes it this easy for customers to understand what is happening within their environments from a security perspective is something that cannot be understated. I know that there are many security leaders out there for organizations that are concerned. They stay up at night for that analyst burnout reason. Are things being missed because our analysts are overworked? Are things being missed because we have lack of visibility into those different pieces of telemetry? And having a solution, both technically as well as from an expertise perspective with Critical Start, that can provide you that transparency and that quick time to notification and advocacy and assistance throughout the investigative process is something that should hopefully provide confidence in this solution. So I just want to commend Critical Start for making it that easy for customers to understand exactly what's going on. So that's it's really nice to see.
Thanks, Seth. Appreciate that. All right, let's continue. So let's get into how do we optimize the security outcomes. Again, you'll see that white glove service, the dedicated support, et cetera. So let's walk through the customer journey, both, again, Sumo Logic, you'll see on the left-hand side, bring your own license. Seth did a great job of talking about that. And then on the bottom there, you'll see no SIM license, meaning Managed XDR. And taking you through that customer journey, what's going to happen is if you're getting the license from Critical Start, we're going to spin up that tenant for you. If you're bringing that license to us, that tenant will already be onboarded as part of Sumo Logic's onboarding process. So we're going to work very closely with you and gather all the relevant source data. What are you taking in? Are you taking in the right things? Ensure everything is working properly, making sure everything's connected and talking to each other. And the big part of this is tuning. Tuning is very critical when setting up a SIM. When you first bring a SIM online and all these alerts are coming in, it's going to be very noisy. And what we do is we work with you to tune out the alerts that we know are good. So if we know that you have an application that causes a certain alert that you know is okay, that should be happening, we're going to tune those out so they don't come in and cause sometimes literally thousands of alerts that we can tune down. So tuning does take a couple of weeks to make sure everything's working properly. We work with the SOC and add playbooks and escalations. So how do we work with you? How do we work with the customer to make sure if you do have to get notified, who do we notify? How do we notify you? Is it the mobile SOC on your phone? Is it an email? Is it a phone call? Is it a group? What do we do? We work through that so we don't have to worry about that. If an incident happens, it's already set up. Then we go through the migration and implementation if that has to happen. And some of the things I already talked about, but the configuring is extremely important. Both Seth and I have talked about that on the Sumo side and on the Critical Start side. If you're bringing the license, configuring that SIM and making sure everything's coming in properly, what you're taking in is critical to get those security outcomes. Again, content. Can't stress enough, and I do have a slide, I think it might be the next one or the one after, and how we determine what content should be brought in. And Seth, I think you had some comments about content too, just to bring out again stress a little bit more how Sumo handles the content.
Yeah, so Sumo Logic and I believe Critical Start, rightfully so, takes advantage of Sumo Logic's out-of-the-box detections. So as a SIM vendor, we have over 900 out-of-the-box rules addressing many different use cases across 6 different rule types. including user behavior analytics rule type, so anomaly detection. So it's covering, Sumo Logic, the SIEM platform, is covering a number of use cases right away. What you'll see on top of that is the ability to, I like to call them knobs, right? The ability to tune and turn knobs in specific ways to make a SIEM solution really work effectively and efficiently is most of the way there. But when you want to add some additional content, you'll have the expertise of Critical Start and your own internal knowledge on the use cases that are important to you, maybe by vertical or maybe by industry, whatever is important to you, to go ahead and create some new custom content very, very easily within the platform. So taking advantage of almost 1,000 out-of-the-box detections, as well as the expertise that Critical Start can provide to create custom content, is something that you as the customer will be able to benefit from day one. So it's quite the experience to having collected that telemetry and use the onboarding experience from Critical Start to getting security protection day one. It's quite the experience and maybe different than what you've seen elsewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so this all takes you, again, outcomes, threat monitoring, detection and response. Get to the point that you're in production monitoring, the SOC is watching everything that's coming in, and you are fully protected by Critical Start and Sumo Logic. All right, so optimizing your security ecosystem. Let's walk through these a little bit. SIEM coverage gaps reporting. Within the platform, you can run a report based on a slide that I'll show you of your primary log sources. The report goes out there and takes a look at what you're ingesting and says, hey, you're not ingesting firewall logs. And firewall logs are very important to make sure that we got proper coverage out there. The report says, should you do this? Can we add them? What you're doing. So we're making sure we're uncovering any gaps in the reporting that you have. Now that we have it all fully, all the logs coming in, there's no gaps. We want to make sure all those logs that are coming in are monitored for health reasons. If a log source goes down, we call zero log ingest, we get an alert to our support department that then either tries to fix it or reaches out to you, the customer, to help fix that log. Why did it go down? It can go down for multiple reasons. There could be a network issue on the customer side. There could be a change to that log source that we need to update our detection rules to make sure everything works. But we want to know immediately if that log source goes down for any reason, because then what happens is it opens up a gap, and then that threat actor can get in through that gap. So health monitoring is extremely important within the entire ecosystem. Management, again, getting back to that, set it and forget it. Make sure that you can offload your tasks to another MDR provider, of course, like Critical Start. We have individuals that are constantly watching your environment and keeping up with that care and feeding of that SIEM, so it does not go stale. And then log prioritization. I talked about this multiple times. Make sure we're ingesting the right log sources. You can ingest, as Seth said earlier, into the Sumo Logic platform, really anything you want. We want to focus on the security relevant logs, and not only focus on the security relevant logs, but the ones that give us the greatest security threat value. So threat-centric value. So we're going to look at those and work with you to make sure that we're ingesting the right log sources. And this is the slide.
Would you mind?
Yeah,
Stephen, would you mind going back?
Absolutely.
Sorry about that. Yeah. So the first bullet at the top of this page, the SIEM coverage gap reporting. So once again, back in a previous life, understanding what we were actually detecting was kind of an endeavor. You have to outline, inventory all your detection use cases. You have to understand what sources are making those use cases light up, if they were ever to light up. Well, with Critical Start and Sumo, we both provide to the customer in a consultative way, both in product within Sumo Logic, as well as during communications and conversations with Critical Start, gaps And we do so in the platform with a MITRE attack heat map that shows you the rule base, each rule that applies to different tactics and techniques within the MITRE framework. We display it in product. And you can see which rules light up those tactics and techniques. And then during the creation of custom rules to meet specific use cases, to meet some specific tactics and techniques, we can actually begin to fill that in. So two methods by which to address gaps, both in product as well as in a consultative nature through Critical Start, are really what we're providing to the customer to say, we understand where we are today and where we want to be tomorrow. And we show you that visually and as well as ongoing conversations that you might have with Critical Start. So I really wanted to emphasize that. It's something that we should all be striving towards, covering those gaps. We cover our visibility gaps with collections of data, security relevant logs, and then we can visualize that within the Sumo Logic platform through that MITRE attack heat map, and then really map those out to show you in a visual way to where you've been to where you're going.
Yeah, absolutely. So how do we prioritize that, right? So we take a look, we have what we like to call internally the bubble chart, wonder why. And the way that you use this, and we review this with customers all the time during onboarding, even prior to that, is from left to right with the big red circles are your primary log sources. So you want to make sure, and we will work with you, that you're ingesting your firewall threat logs, your cloud security logs, your identity logs, et cetera. Email security, extremely critical, right? So if you had to, for whatever reason, make a choice, and we don't, hopefully you don't have to, on what you're going to ingest, you always want to look at what the bigger red circles are and move your way to the right. If you look at the smaller blue circles, these are logs that you can ingest into Sumo Logic, but don't give the greatest security threat centric value that you're going to get out of the left-hand side. So yes, ingest your DNS logs, ingest your physical security, right? A lot of you might have badge readers or cameras, IoT devices, ingest those, but they don't provide that cybersecurity threat centric value that we're going to get out of your cloud security logs, your firewall threat logs. So we're going to walk through this. And again, I think it's the first bullet here, primarily related to MITRE attack matrix categories, just as Seth talked about in the last slide. Everything is mapped to MITRE, so you can see your coverage against that and report, maybe even up to your board, on how that's being covered.
One thing I'd like to emphasize here, Stephen, is just the fact that we all know this as security professionals. We all look at this bubble chart and we all say, oh, yeah, absolutely. But when push comes to shove, having a solution that can effectively and quickly gather this data is something that doesn't often happen. And sometimes some of those orange or blue bubbles get dropped. Now, they may be less security relevant, but the fact remains is that they may be valuable. And the beauty of Sumo and Critical Start coming together is you can have technically be able to get that data in based off of its importance from a macro security perspective, as well as your specific situation, get that data in, but also choose the relevance of specific data sets and where they make sense to be correlated, to be evaluated by the SIEM solution, and to be evaluated by SOC analysts ultimately. So although we may know this inherently, these are the log types that we need to ingest, sometimes we often limit ourselves based off of either budgets or just not having enough time to get this data into the environment. With relationship with Critical Start using Sumo's platform, those go away. You get to ingest this data and make the most use of it out of it as you can. So it's a great slide, and one that hopefully brings up a lot of, oh yeah, I should be bringing in that DHCP logs just so I can understand when I correlate something sometimes together and IP addresses. So it's a really good one.
That's exactly what happens when we have calls with prospects and customers. It's like, oh, that light goes off. So it's a simple slide, but very effective. All right. So the other thing that I want to stress is that boards are, budgets are tight, right? We've talked to a lot of people. Budgets are definitely not growing. Hopefully, from a security standpoint, they're not shrinking. but you have to prove the value that you're getting from an offering to the board or to your CISO or whoever that may be. Within the platform of Critical Start, and this is just some examples of what a board report would look like, but this is an executive report that you can just click on a button within our core platform, within the platform, and it generates this off the data that it pulls ingested from everything that's coming in. Excuse me. So the thing I want to stress here is you need to prove the value. That happens a lot. We get asked that very often is, hey, my board is asking me to show the value that I'm getting from this product. We have a couple of different reports that you can run and that can show that value to the board or the CISO who is ever asking for it.
Yeah, Stephen, that reminds me in a much reduced criticality from cybersecurity. But I remember when I had to sign up to go to conferences, and they were like, "Send this letter to your boss to justify your trip expense." And this is such a great way to outline the value, the return on the investment that you're getting with Critical Start. So I love to see this, and I love the fact that it's in product after working with Critical Start. So bravo.
Thanks. All right, so let's get through these last few slides here for you. Let's get to our next poll question. How confident are you in your current visibility into your network? So A, are you completely confident? B, more confident than I have been, but not very confident. Actually, I'm a little concerned. So take a second and reply to that poll. Again, this visibility is extremely important. So hopefully everyone's had a chance to respond to that. And I just wanted to bring up a couple of different screenshots here. I'm about to go into the actual product itself. But your security posture, again, is only as good as the data you can access. We've talked about this on multiple slides. The data. What log sources are you bringing in? How are you looking at it? What are you looking at? These are screenshots of the Critical Start platform. And this is a couple of screenshots from what the Sumo Logic interface looks like. And we work very closely together. And again, you can single sign on into both. Go ahead, Seth.
No, I was simply going to say that the exact same thing, that they are as tightly integrated as two organizations that aren't the same organization can be. So pivoting from one to the other is quite simple. I've seen it done a number of times. And the value that you get from each is independent as well. So they can provide value to many different personas. And what you're seeing on the screen now is dashboards lighting up with some AWS findings from an AWS account, as well as what's called the heads up display within our cloud SIEM that shows you the status of the SIEM. So working very well together and tightly coupled in integration.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So how do I continue to protect my environment? Again, those technical gaps, make sure everything is covered. You're going to hear a lot of, especially Critical Start and Sumo, talking about more of the proactive approach. What we've been talking about throughout this webinar is a lot of the reactive approach, that threat detection, the investigation, the MDR, the managed detection and response capabilities of the platforms. But what you want to start looking at is, how do I prevent it from even getting there? So we're looking at more of a proactive approach, shifting from making assumptions to verifying. Again, those zero log ingest, making sure things are coming in, covering those gaps, making sure those gaps are covered so there's no way the security actors can get in. And then once that's all done, you have that full picture of your cybersecurity environment. MDR at the very end is extremely important. That reactive, everyone, I'm sorry to say, is going to get breached at some point. I wish I could say that's not going to happen, but how do we react to it? How do we try to prevent it the best we can? This is extremely important, and putting the two solutions together give you that stronger protection that you want and make sure we can prevent as much as possible. Bringing it all together, This is the entire solution working from left to right. The administration of it, making sure that you're offloading that management, that set it and forget it goes away, helping you plan and deploy, where Sumo comes in and helps that before it even gets over to critical start. All that customization of log sources Seth talked about on previous slides, the log prioritization, that bubble chart, making sure we're taking in the right log sources, the optimization, all that threat detection and response, making sure you have a SOC that's covering you 24/7 by 365, 2 SOC locations to cover that we have coverage for you, that mobile SOC application so you can see any alert that comes in and you might not be in front of your computer. Hey, I know I'm on a soccer field with some kids on a Saturday morning. If I need to see something, it's going to come into my phone. I'd rather not have to, leave the soccer field, go to my computer and see what's going on. So make sure you get that and make sure you have that interaction with the SOC and that continuous risk reduction, working with you, having that partnership. It's not just set it up, get everything working and say, see you later. We have meetings with you on a quarterly basis, on a monthly basis, talking about how your cyber environment might have changed, how we've changed, what Sumo Logic has come out with, what Critical Start has come out with, what's changed in your environment, making sure there's a true partnership there, so nothing ever goes without taking a look at.
That's what I see. That's what I see with this diagram right here, is a comprehensive partnership from start with technology and visibility through the white glove approach for getting the SIM to the place that it needs to be for the customer. Although it's pretty easy with Sumo Logic, having the expertise of Critical Start professionals there with the customer, walking them through the many different things to consider in very stressful environments at times, should be of great comfort to security leaders at organizations that need to feel better about what they're doing to protect their organizations. So when I see these 4 pillars all together, I see a comprehensive approach to ensuring that organizations are moving from that reactive to that proactive nature with cybersecurity. Just seems extremely comprehensive, and I've seen it be successful with Critical Start and Sumo Logic in the past a number of different times. So I'm excited for those of you who want to continue this conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know I want to be conscious of everyone's important time. So let me show you a little bit about what the platform looks like. We're in a webinar, so hopefully everything's working properly. What I'm showing here is the Critical Start platform, or you heard me call it Core. As alerts come in, you can see kind of what they look like. And you can, as a customer, see exactly what our analyst within the SOC is seeing. So what I'm looking at here is no different.
Steven,
yes.
We're seeing your demo slide.
Uh-oh. Well, I apologize. Maybe we're not going to be able to get this to work today. So my apologies. We thought we had this working. What we will do then is, if you would like to see a more demo that goes into a little bit deeper dive into it, please reach out both to Sumo Logic. I do apologize here. This live TV, right? Things happen. We try to plan and things don't work as planned. I apologize.
Oh, I think it's a great cliffhanger. Yeah, get a hold of us. We'll show you.
Yeah,
we'll show it to you in a one-on-one.
You want to see what I was just talking about? Give us a call. All right. So the last poll question, which is perfect. Are you interested in learning more? Let us know. Of course you are, because you want to see what I was just about to show you, which was absolutely incredible. So go ahead and answer this poll. And I believe that is coming to an end here. And if we do have any questions, I believe Zainab is going to come back on in the last couple of minutes and let us know if there's anything we can answer. But please reach out to us and let us know how we can take this conversation even further.
Thank you very much, Seth and Stephen. So we do have a couple of questions, and I know we're running up on time here. We've got about 10 minutes left, so I can go through these pretty quickly. One of the first questions that we had was, can both of these solutions be used for compliance?
Yeah, Seth, you want to talk about Sumo's compliance capabilities first?
Sure. Yeah. So absolutely. Sumo Logic is great for meeting compliance controls, providing evidence of those controls being executed, either through, shoulder surfing by assessors coming in, showing you that you're actually executing logging, retaining logs for a specific period of time. We also have some obviously dashboarding capabilities that will allow users to understand their monitoring situation with regards to specific use cases that are required by different frameworks. So it's a great solution, one that I wish I had when I was working for the federal government.
And it partners well with Critical Start because we have a lot of dashboards within our platform that if you need to print out, like I showed you the report for the board. There's other reports that you can run SOC 2, whatever you need from a compliance standpoint. So yes, absolutely, it's a great platform for compliance. Any other questions, Zainab?
Yes, so that's actually a really good segue. So how many log sources and reports are included per year?
So that's going to be a different type of answer. So what we can take in as many log sources as you need. It's please reach out to us and we can explain to you how it's priced. But it's priced by the number, and I'm talking about the Critical Start side. I'll let Seth talk about the Sumo side in a second. From a Critical Start standpoint, it is priced by the number of users within your organization as the number of log sources that we're ingesting. So it's not how many you can ingest. The other thing I do want to call out here real quickly before I pass it over to Seth is within our offering, you get 5 custom log sources per year. And maybe that's what the question is really meaning is how many custom. We do 5 of those per contract year for the customer. But Seth, I'll let you, it's a little bit different story on the Sumo side of how many you can take in, which they have a great story around that.
Yeah, so back to one of the drawings, one of the diagrams that Stephen showed earlier, which was the collection of installed and hosted collector. Bringing in data into Sumo Logic, you're not charged for that. The data that goes to the SIEM, the volume of data that goes to the SIEM is where cost comes in. And there's no limit to the amount of data or the number of sources that can be brought in with the Sumo Logic platform. So if you have 1,000, if you have 10, if you have 10,000, you can bring in those different sources of data.
Awesome. So speaking of the SIEM, another question is asking, we're looking at moving off of our current SIEM. Do you guys help with that?
Both companies can do that, right? So if you're coming from a Sumo side, Sumo has their professional services organization that can help you. If on the Critical Start side, we also have a professional services organization that can help you. So absolutely reach out to both companies and we can definitely help you migrate over to the Sumo Logic platform.
Awesome. And then when we do that, another question is a great segue is, do you guys provide training?
Oh, 100%. Actually, and Sumo does a great job from a training standpoint. They have so many available classes and courses, whatever you want to call them, online that's available that is incredible. And I'll let Seth go into a little more detail. But on the Critical Start side, you are assigned an onboarding project manager and a team that implements and onboards you within the platform and goes through all the training and make sure that you understand how to use the platform. And that is ongoing with some online classes. But I cannot stress enough the great classes that Sumo has online. It's a great platform that you guys have.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for calling that out, Stephen. And thanks for the question. So free courses with a training environment that are in product. So to gain access, if you were to buy a license yourself and bring that for management with Critical Start, you can train your organization, your team members, yourself within the product simply by clicking the Learn button. It's going to take you out to our learning management system, to which you will then have access to a training environment to execute labs. And those labs are very comprehensive and cover the gambit of different scenarios that you might encounter with such a broad ranging solution as Sumo Logic, all the way from creating dashboards to understanding vernacular to executing, writing and executing rules and testing things We absolutely have comprehensive training courses for any persona.
Awesome. And then one of the last questions is, do you offer automated response?
Yeah, so for specific actions, we can take a response on your behalf with platforms. So what you can do, there's capabilities that you could, if we integrate with a platform like Abnormal, we can then via API take an email offline or potentially take a user, and that is all part of the onboarding and letting us know what action you want us to take on your behalf. So we don't do anything without letting you know, or we don't do anything without your permission. And I think that's key.
All right, awesome. And I think that about wraps it up for us today, you guys.
Great.
So thank you, Stephen, and thank you, Seth, for your time today. This
Thank
is really
you.
great information. And thank you, everyone, for attending our webinar. We do hope that you found it valuable. Be on the lookout for the recording, and we hope you have a great day.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.